I remember telling mom one day, like, I think I want to do marketing. She was like, well, how are you going to make a difference? I was like, I don't know. I just want to get the bag and get free stuff. But I had this awakening. I actually don't want to be telling people to buy stuff that they don't need. I want to be influencing people in a more meaningful way, not making them break their pockets.
Our mom is notorious for making everybody a teacher. Start off with photography and all the things, and my mom was like, well, why don't you go back to school? I'm like, all right, let's do that.
Teaching was never on your radar. You never maybe considered yourself an educator, but what you've learned, whether it was lesson planning, helps you with project design, or presenting in front of the group, and now you're on a podcast. Education provides so much job security. You can get to six figures faster as a teacher than as a doctor.
No, I got you.
For sure. When we partner with people like Elite Collective, we're really able to extend when we document and record and share. I think about influence as what is the good that I want to put out into the world? What are the important things that I believe in that I want to share and spread?
We all remember that one teacher who saw our potential before we did. But I get a front row seat to this one because she's my little sister. If you've ever wondered how teaching becomes leadership, how culture shapes identity, or how one educator can influence an entire community, then this episode is for you. Welcome, Isolina, my little sister. How you doing?
Doing great. So happy to be here.
I know. Thank you for making time. You're quite the busy woman. I personally know because I get the family texts and phone calls and all the things. You wear a couple hats. Couple bonnets, couple do-rags. A little bit. Can't go to Jamar's doing that. But yeah, that's awesome. I like to start every conversation with your earliest Carlos Imani memory and what got you to this table. And you have, I guess, a unique viewpoint as well.
The memories that started flashing as soon as you asked that kind of all have a common thread of just like you being a hustler and showing me how to like what it looks like to really get after it in a like non-traditional sense. So I can remember you hustling in sports and going to your like high school basketball games and kicking it with the cheerleaders and cheering you on. And then I remember you working at the toy store in the mall and going in there and getting
slanging Furbies.
You know, getting all the limited edition Barbies and Furbies. And what was that, KB Toys?
Yeah, KB Toy Store, South Center. Come on.
Then I remember I feel like every week you had a new piece of equipment that you would lug and pack into the car to go take pictures at the club. So I was like 10 years old and I knew what a airbrush backdrop was for. And then starting to reap those benefits and being like, oh, my brother's so cool. Like we're going to, I remember the Trey Songz meet and greet. I remember going to Summer Jam. And then you opened the door for me to get my first job, which was not at all glamorous, but like helping clean up at the C-Spot office and just being around that culture and grind and seeing like, okay, we do have a real like Black cultural hub in Seattle. And I feel like from there, you really instilled in me, like, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can go get it, go after it. So I think I had that C-Spot job in like 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, I had a job. 10th grade, I started working at Rainier Scholars. And then I'd been getting to the money ever since. So I think a lot of my earliest memories have to do with like you, just watching you grow and having that age gap of like, we're still super close as siblings, but being able to look up to you and seeing the things that you were able to accomplish. And then I didn't realize in the moment, but now looking back, it definitely instilled in me, like, you can carve out whatever avenue you want. You can do the things you love and you can make some decent money doing it. So I think those are some of my early memories that are, podcast appropriate. I was going to talk about the time. I vividly remember this as a 5-year-old. We went to the mall and you made me bring a lunch, but you actually got to like go to McDonald's, and I vividly remember that. So I think we've made up for it since then, but that one's ingrained in my memory.
All right. Yeah, I don't recall that one.
I do. We were at Westlake.
Westlake. Okay.
You were a great babysitter.
All right. So yeah, it sounds like you were able to rub off some things in terms of just being able to follow your passions, and that part was important, and also just kind of standing on business as well, of not just hustling for the sake of hustling, but like your word matters. 10 years later, you were able to use my name and it meant something, right? It held some
Not
weight.
just at the club door.
Not just at the club door. But yeah, I mean, that's something that, you know, you definitely want to move forward with, where it's like, you know, when we talk about legacy, like that's what some of that stuff means, where when you're done, your work speaks for itself, and then beyond yourself. We had a episode earlier, we talked about being vouchable, where someone was talking about how they felt comfortable speaking my name in rooms I wasn't in, and just generally how important that is of speaking, you know, love and life into your people in those rooms they aren't in.
Yeah.
But she was like, but you got to be vouchable. And I was like, yes, yes, you do. Because if we're going to say you can do the things, you need to be able to show up and do them. Because then I look like I'm crazy. I'm like, man, what's up with your mans? Like, here we go. But yeah, so I think that's a big thing of just wanting to, you know, lead with excellence, lead with always growing, always improving, and just being able to, you know, leave that lastingness. And then what would you say was what kind of sparked your passion for education?
Well, our mom is an educational pioneer here in the Northwest, and
shout out to moms.
Shout out to mom. And then the community that she created and that we grew up in is also full of a lot of educators. And so I would say from like middle school and high school, I was super anti. I'm not going to work in education. I remember telling mom one day, like, I think I want to do marketing. This was kind of after like my C-spot little job where I would see all the like marketing materials coming in and stuff. And I was like, I think I want to do that. And she was like, well, how are you going to make a difference? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to get the bag and get free stuff. And then junior year came around, and that was when I had my first official job as a teacher. Like, of course, spent hours on end at La Escuelita or the Los Bainitos practices working with kids. But I had my first like real job as a student advisor at Rainier Scholars. So I got to not only be in an educational setting, but it was in a position where I got to say, like, I've been where you've been. And that felt so fulfilling. And I got to realize, like, okay, this is actually really fun, and it makes me feel really good inside. And I'm good at it. Like, I can give really decent advice. And so junior year, throughout like the college prep sort of essay writing process, I kind of got to think through that idea more. And then I would say fall senior year, when it really got real and I had to like choose. Again, I was in Rainier Scholars and they gave us counseling, but at Garfield, I was also in the Black Achievers program. Shout out to Miss Jenkins/Fields. And I remember still having this conversation with her about like, what do I want to major in? I was like, I really care about people. And then we started talking about like sociology. And then she was like, I think you want to be a teacher. I was like, I think so too. And so, man, that semester, Miss Jenkins Fields, she was Miss Jenkins at the time. She really had a huge impact on just my trajectory. I was not thinking about Spelman. She was like, you're gonna apply to Spelman. I was like, I don't know. She was like, we're not talking about it. So she made sure I connected with someone from Seattle who had graduated from Spelman. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll apply. And then I saw that they had a child development major. So I was able to graduate with my teaching certification. And so I was like, okay. At the point, I was kind of just checking boxes. But then once I got to campus and I got involved in my major and I started doing more in the Atlanta community, I had an internship at a preschool, at a private school, at all different types of schools. I got to see all these different formats within education. Then at the same time, my coursework is requiring me to learn more about educational philosophies. But I think what was unique to being at Spelman or probably any HBCU is that we were able to study and really look at what Black education was like, from segregation, integration, Brown versus Board, all the way up until now. And once I started to see and learn those patterns, this like fire just really came up in me where I was like, okay, I have to do this. This is how I'm going to make a change in the world. This is how I'm going to make my impact. And so it's been up since then.
There we go. Yeah, no, it was dope to see that transition, and it was great to visit you too over in Atlanta. Good times. But yeah, no, I thought that was dope, and I think a lot of folks that, especially coming from the Northwest, if you don't have an opportunity to be in majority minority areas, I think you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, right? We had the benefit of, like, I remember, going to school every year in Seattle, but literally every break, every summer, spring, Christmas holiday, whatever, like we're going back to New York, we're going back to Puerto Rico, we're going back to Jamaica, and just being able to have that was normalized, right? So that's why I have interesting conversation with folks that haven't had that opportunity, and you don't really realize it till you start to see like different. And then you talk to someone else, and it's like, oh, they went to a HBCU, or they're from a different city, like a New York, a Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. So it's like, big advocate. Like I didn't go to HBCU, did. And a lot of folks that I talked to, like, big advocate of going, like, Shikundi had went as well, and both of his kids, but just being able to get out. And sometimes you can make a new home in that space, and that's awesome. But it's also dope to see people go out and then come back. Is pretty dope to see, and just to be able to bring, just that new way of thinking, or any other gems that they can bring back. Because we do have a lot of very awesome things in Seattle. So I think whenever we can add that extra seasoning, it's only but helpful.
Yeah,
for sure.
You just made me think about sort of like my elementary experience, and that was also super unique. While we know Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, is super white, it is diverse, but the majority is obviously white. I was kind of sheltered to that fact because of our tight-knit community and our family, and how intentional they were on making sure we knew about all of our foods, music, dances, everything. But I also went to Madrona, and I didn't have my first white teacher till 4th grade. And I didn't have my first white principal till 7th grade. So like our mascot was the Black Panther. We were in the heart of the Central District when it was still booming with Black-owned businesses. And so growing up in that community also gave me this sense of pride and understanding and belonging that I feel like when I go into a lot of schools now that aren't as intentional about that, I feel like is really missing
it. Yeah, there was a little bit of a gym there at the top of the hill.
I mean, there were so many elementary schools in the CD at the time that really stood on Black excellence, from Zion Prep, TT Minor, AAA, Madrona, Thurgood Marshall, and many, many more. That
mentioned St. Therese.
St. Therese, for sure. They're still rocking, and they're still holding it down. But a lot of the other schools either are gone or they serve a different population now.
Yeah, no, and that's part of that importance of having people in leadership roles that, one, represent the culture, and then also are intentional about creating space, making space, and sharing those, and letting them know like it's still okay to do it this way. I wanted to dive into the word influence. Nowadays has, usually you think of an influence as an influencer on social, but wanted to kind of talk about what that means to you as an educator, but also as a Caribbean person.
So yeah, I feel like the word influence, the first thing you think is like, click the link in bio, swipe, buy this, buy that. And for a period in time, as I've part of this digital age and showing up online, I was kind of going down that sort of influencer path with like, to the point I was getting like gifted beauty products to do reviews on. I got paid for a couple things and it was cool, but I had this awakening very abruptly. Like, I actually don't want to be telling people to buy stuff that they don't need. I want to be influencing people in a more meaningful way. Not making them break their pockets. And so I started thinking more about like, okay, what are the things that I do every day? What is the part of me that I can share that will have an impact with people that's not forced? That I'm not having to sit and schedule and plan like, okay, I'm going to wash my hair on this day and I'm going to record it. And then I'm gonna, like, what are the things that I could turn the camera on while I'm doing my normal day? And that came down to like education. And then of course, being a mom, parenting. And then also, I just like the question about the Caribbean part, what we're doing here in our community and the way that we're keeping the Caribbean culture alive all the way here in the Pacific Northwest. But then we're also working with early childhood education centers and programs and supporting them and figuring out how to support the cultures of the students that they're working with. So we kind of get to live it on the day-to-day with our Caribbean culture and having that influence in Seattle. But then we're also able, and by we, I mean like mom, our group, our community, we're also able to support other educators in teaching them how to foster that with the students and the backgrounds that they serve. So to me, it looks like education. Like we all know the saying, you can give a man a fish or you can teach him to fish. Similarly with some of these educational practices. We can teach a class on best practices, and then those teachers are going to bring those practices to their classrooms, to their sites. Their students will impact from it, their families will impact it, and then that impact continues to widen. When we partner with people like Elite Collective and we're able to record and capture some of these classes or seminars, then we can share them beyond Seattle, beyond Washington. I believe our Soy Bilingüe curriculum has reached New Zealand. Like, we're really able to extend when we document and record and share these things. So I think about influence as, what is the good that I want to put out into the world? What are the important things that I believe in that I want to share and spread? So right now, the way that that's showing up for me online, I've just been like setting my camera up and just talking about things that I'm going through as a mom. So earlier this year, I posted a couple TikToks about like questions you should ask as you're looking for a school, because I was looking for a kindergarten for my son and I wanted to make the right decision. I posted a video about questions to ask in an IEP meeting because I was a special ed teacher and coordinator for a long time. And then my son also has an IEP. So those were just totally organic, like messages that I felt like I needed to record and share. No makeup, no background. It was just like on my heart and spirit to share. And they blew up. So it really shows like, okay, I was getting some views from the beauty influencing, but when I switched over to what really matters, people have been interacting. It's me finding the right people. Funny enough, earlier this morning, I joined an IEP meeting for a parent who lives in Connecticut. She saw my TikTok and sent me a DM and was like, hey, I know this is like, you don't know me, this is kind of random, but is there any chance you could like join my child's IEP meeting? I don't know what to do or say. And I saw it, I opened it, and I was like, you know what? Let me check my calendar. Yep, let's do it. So we had like a planning meeting on Monday. We talked about her goals and stuff. And then I got to sit in the meeting today. I didn't really talk much, but I had told her everything she needed to ask. So she went in there sounding super informed. She knew how to advocate for her child. And then I was there. I was texting her to like, say this, ask for that. And man, that felt so fulfilling. And so I'm excited to continue seeing how I can share my strengths, my talents, the things that I've learned in a way that reaches people. So whether it's through a podcast like this, propping my phone up, recording another little TikTok, or being more intentional, maybe doing a YouTube series or something that people can use those resources, whether it's an IEP meeting, parent-teacher conference, or if it's a teacher looking for support. Just thinking about how I can partner with Elite Collective. Doesn't hurt that you're my brother. Or just how I can document and get these things written down so that the impact goes beyond the one A and B conversation, and it can go as far as Connecticut, New Zealand, wherever. No, that's brilliant. That's dope that you're able to like have it happen in real life. Like, I put up the thing, they DM me, literally. I talked to them, I made it happen. I had a buddy of mine that was going through something similar. I think it was around coaching or something. And again, they wanted to just do it, and they put it out there, and they were just kind of making it happen. Oh, actually around parenting. That's what it was. And this basketball coach was like super successful in coaching. And, you know, it was like a season. And then the season went on and he was no longer their coach. And some of the parents were like, we can't get them to do these things. Like when you tell them to do the homework or they can't play, or it was just his communicational style. And it was started with just those parents. And then, you know, the word gets around and it opened up to bigger. So he had like 30 parents between the school and the teams and the whatever. And then he was like, man, this might be a thing. And he was just sharing off his heart. He ended up turning it into a full-time business where you can contact him and schedule time and, you know, do the stuff. And he does this on an ongoing basis. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. But again, it started from something organic. He was just doing it on his team. And it just kind of, you know, blew up from there. So to hear that you're able to find that, you know, validation, right? Where it's like, okay, this is real. For a reason, you know, and this person is in Connecticut. Beyond views and likes. Right. Like, it's one thing, I got life. 70K, 100K views or whatever, but like, are they applying these things in the meeting? Right. How do I really know? So for this lady to reach out and to be able to sit in an IEP meeting, right? Like, one, for her to trust me to do something that's so personal and private, I'm just really grateful that I was able to let my genuine kind of nature and spirit come across in a short TikTok video.
Right. So I'm super excited to see where that part goes. But also wanted to explore a little bit about what you're talking about in terms of the importance of expanding your reach, right? You know, if you're hitting up an elite collective or just another creative person in your sphere or your city that you're in or whatnot, the importance of documenting, right? I think one, you know, boils down to storytelling, right? As humans, that's how we communicate. It was through story, and it's like it can go so much further. So now as we're trying to make impact and create legacy, and I tell people all the time, like, you know, a lot of times I'm sitting in on these meetings, I'm like, man, you guys are brilliant and you guys are sharing and dropping gems. Like, I wish people outside of this room could experience this, right? It was where a lot of these things happen, where sometimes it's like, hey, could we, you know, maybe videotape this next one or open it up to more people? And I think COVID opened a lot of people's eyes to that, because so many meetings became Zoom meetings. And it's like, theoretically, you could have unlimited folks, you know, on there participating, but you see how things can be received. And then also there's something to be said, you know, where you could do it, go through the class, but sometimes, you know, you went through the class, you're applying it, you know, whatever, but it might be a part of it that hasn't had an opportunity to really be applied yet. And you're like, oh, what was that thing? And to be able to go back and just watch that one lesson or that one thing, because it's more than just the notes. If you could, like, literally, let me watch this video of Isolina presenting this whole thing on communication, then I can now have that refresher and apply it. So one of the things a lot of people don't, you know, they think to themselves like, oh, who wants to hear this or hear that? And I was telling someone the other day about this YouTube I saw about this grandma that retired and was like, all right, what am I going to do? She started a YouTube around gardening, because she had been an avid gardener for like 20 years, and her channel blew up, and she does everything on her phone, like videotapes it, does the editing, posts all of it. So it's not like high end, but she's like, you know, I have something to say, and there's, you know, I don't know everything, but I know something, right? And there's somebody that can receive that. And that just goes to show, like, for you, it's like, even if it was 10 people, one of them called you and you were able to make an impact to them in Connecticut. So it shows, like, chances are, man, if you're passionate about something and you can really share from the heart, you're not trying to sell something, like you said, it's something that comes naturally. Man, think about recording it, even if it's your own podcast, YouTube, whatever. But there's chances are you could help someone make a better decision after watching you than before.
For sure.
You know, even if you don't even know that that happened, being that you're doing it for those right reasons, it's not forced. And then chances are they're going to come back and they're going to tell somebody. And then your group will organically grow. But you have folks that are really tied into it. You know, it's not just this phantom, you know, 5K, 100K number. It's like, yo, I got 325 people that love everything that I'm putting out, and our community is dope. We support each other, hella interaction, and it's way more fulfilling, right? And then let that grow from there. So that's dope to see that it took that step, and I'm excited to see where it goes from there. And then I guess you talked a little bit about it before, but I wanted to dive in a little bit more. This kind of talks to that person that might be thinking about going into teaching as a young person, or sometimes, you know, people do it later in life. You know, our mom is notorious for making everybody a teacher. Everyone should get their teacher certification. I'm attestant to that, where started off with photography and all the things, and got some credits and went to school, and, you know, took a break and went full-fledged into my journey with photography. And then actually during COVID had to sit down a little bit, but part of it was like, my mom was like, well, why don't you go back to school? I'm like, all right, let's do that. End up finishing my BA and get my master's in that time.
I think you got your master's before me, and that was funny, because
I did.
That was never in the cards.
That was never in the cards. Like, hello, guess what? I'm here. But yeah, for me, it was more of wanting to share what I do, and went into program development and curriculum development, so that way we could create programs in this track of video and arts and things. But
I mean, that's a great testament to what I'm really trying to push right now, is that if you're thinking about how you can make an impact, for any young people out there, if you're getting ready to graduate, you're trying to pick a major, and you know you want to make an impact, please consider being a teacher, because it doesn't have to be a lifelong commitment. But being a teacher, if you go in it for the right reasons and you take your training seriously, the responsibilities of a teacher provide you with job experience that is transferable to almost any market. Like, you could give me a career and I'm going to tell you something that a teacher has to do in their daily life that they would excel in that market. So just like you explained, you went and got like a master's in education of some sort. You're not a teacher per se, but you are always educating in so many different ways. So you're a perfect example of like, teaching was never on your radar. You never maybe considered yourself an educator, but what you've learned, whether it was lesson planning, helps you with project design, or presenting in front of the group, and now you're on a podcast. Like, there's so much within the field of education that if you start off as a classroom teacher, like I started off as a second grade teacher, and I've had, I can say at this point, like 2 of my dream jobs, and it all started from being a teacher. So again, please, teacher, please, if you're thinking about what direction you want to make an impact, you love kids, there are other qualifications that are very important, but consider it, think about it.
No, I love that. And the other piece of that I wanted to add in there for you to expound on is, how did our upbringing shape the way you show up for your students?
Well, first I think about all the aunties who've all been teachers. Literally, shout out to all the titis, tias, Grammys, mommies, mama, everything, ias, everything. They all taught me something. Hairstyle, like almost every person that I can think of as really having a big influence on like my upbringing was an educator of some sort, whether a traditional classroom educator, a college professor, or even like thinking about like Mama D as a beauty cosmetology like I learned so much from people, and I just really wanted to pay that forward. Like, the learning stops if we don't continue passing it along. And I also wanted to be the representation that I had. Once I started getting into different school settings, and I'll see the one little black kid in the school, we make eye contact and we're like, I see you. That's when I was like, okay, we need more teachers of color. We need more representation. And while, you know, as Black people, we're not a monolith, there's so many different representations. We need all of those. We need representation from people who were in the United States for a long time. If you're of Caribbean descent, African descent, like every child deserves to see someone in their school who they can connect to. And it doesn't have to always be on a racial or cultural level, but I think representation is so important, because the first step for a student to really be able to absorb everything that they're supposed to learn is that they feel safe, loved, and cared for. And sometimes that representation is enough to check off that box. Sometimes that representation means that the teacher knows what love and care looks for that student. Sometimes it means being able to kind of speak the same language, either literally or figuratively. I was able to connect with so many families by speaking Spanish, and they're like, "Do habla español?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then we're having whole conferences in Spanish, no translator needed. Like, to be able to be that representation has been so fulfilling. And so as in our youth, and
that, like a specific story that, or a moment, you know, like, this is why I teach.
This is why, right? That goosebump story. I get new ones every day. Like, I get them from students. Right now, I'm really getting them from like teachers and families, but put me on the spot. My goosebump moment was, so after Spelman, I moved to Jersey and I started teaching in Newark, and then I taught in Newark for a couple years. Newark. Taught in Newark, not Newark. Newark. But Jersey holds Jersey holds a really important place in my heart, because that's where I really learned. I got to teach alongside phenomenal educators where we pushed each other to have really high standards. And at times I was like, oh, this is too much for the kids. But my goosebump feeling was every year at the end of the year when the student who came in at a kindergarten reading level was at a 3rd grade reading level, and it was 2nd grade. Like, that was the goosebump for me every year. And it was because we had high expectations. We cared. We were constantly every day planning, like, okay, how can I respond to the gap I saw yesterday, and just continuing to push that bar. So the goosebump moments are obviously the big things, like moving on from 4th grade to 5th grade, but it's also those, like, in the moment, like, you just use the standard algorithm to add and you got it correct. Goosebump. You couldn't count to 10 a month ago. Like, those little moments, and knowing like, wow, I just taught you how to read. Like, you can access the world now. Like, those little things. And then on a repeated basis, it doesn't really lose the excitement. Like, knowing that, okay, you did not know last week that SH says shh, and now you do. Like, those are the things that made me want to come back every day, because it is exhausting managing 30 little people plus they're big people, managing the parents, managing your coworkers, and like the grind and hustle of a school teacher, whether it's preschool, elementary, middle school, that is like, everybody knows teachers work hard, but if you've never like done it,
right,
had to be at work at 7 a.m. and maybe not leave until 5, 6, 7 p.m. I worked at a charter school. They're not all like that. But when you put those hours in and you see your impact is making lifelong differences, like giving someone the power of reading, like I would do
10 out of 10
10 out of 10 recommend. Like, it's crazy. And in the moment, it was hard. Like, I was 21. I want to go outside, but I actually have to be at work at 7 a.m. tomorrow. So, you know, making those sacrifices at a young age, in the moment, it was definitely challenging. I feel like I lost out on maybe some friendships or some things I just wasn't able to continuously foster. But locking in so early in my career, by year 4, I was hitting that leadership level. And then the role that I'm doing now as a director is because I had locked in those early stages of my career, and I was constantly seeking feedback, constantly taking leadership opportunities, even if it was unpaid at first, like being the grade level lead. That's just an additional layer of responsibility. Doesn't really come with extra pay.
Or the summer school thing, right?
Or the summer school. Oh man, that was another 10 out of 10 experience. I got to be the director of a summer prep program
for the summer, essentially, right?
Yeah, where I got to not only lead the children that we had there, but in the opportunity that you're talking about, we had college students it was the summer between junior and senior year, and they came to us and we got to teach them how to be teachers. We would pair them with a mentor teacher. They would get a classroom for the summer, and they would get that feeling of like, oh my God, I just made an impact. I like this. They fall in love with that feeling. They don't all decide to come back and be teachers, but that experience was dope because a lot of them did come back the next school year, and they went from being my interns to now my colleagues, my teammates, and I'm still really close with a lot of those teachers who I met through that program. So I think that, again, if you're in college, high school, and you're thinking about a career, like, education provides so much job security as well as training and support. Like, we're always going to need teachers and doctors. And so if you find the right program to build you up, you find the right school, district, charter, whatever, that's going to give you that training, and you take it serious, you can make 6 figures as a teacher.
No, it doesn't work out just become a doctor.
Yeah. Then you can really make 6. Well, I mean, you could get to 6 figures faster as a teacher than as a doctor.
No, I got you.
For sure. Especially if you're in the state of New York.
Yeah, get that coin. No, that's what's up. You talked a little bit about like how you mentor the young people and working with the students and parents, but wanted to talk about like what that impact is like as well, because you know you're kind of going beyond just a kid, right? When you're talking about they're big people and being able to kind of set parents up for success, and that impacts the greater community. A lot of times we also don't even see that, but it's like you're able to have that trust with parents, right? It's like now they can be better in community and more focused on other things. And then if you give them tools to help them be more impactful parents, also that has like this expanded thing where it's just not having as much stress at home could then turn into, I can be a better coworker, I can be a better business owner, I can be a better neighbor. You know, I don't know if there are real numbers, but I would guess that schools in which there are, you know, teachers that care, curriculum that cares, admin that cares, teachers or parents that are involved and are receiving this stuff, I would imagine like there's probably less domestic violence, there's less, you know, poverty and other things, because some of these things are able to like manifest. And I know there's other outside things that enforce or encroach on some of those things, but I think it starts with like having that school and that classroom that is kind of like that base where it can kind of grow from there.
Yeah. I feel as an educator, from a teacher to a leader, we have an immense amount of like responsibility. We get to be there for all of the fun things in children's lives, like the pajama days, the assemblies, student of the week. But we also get to see some of the like red flags of like, okay, you're coming to school every day, your clothes are kind of dirty. Like that's when we bring the child study team together and we're like, okay, I'm seeing some concerns with this scholar. They're not eating, or they're asking to take home 3 lunches, or their clothes are not fitting properly or getting washed properly. That's when we come together as a team and bring in the school social worker who is able to connect with outside resources. And that's where we see that trickle effect like you were talking about. We're with our students, honestly, in some cases, more hours per day than they're with their family if you don't include sleeping. So a really strong teacher is one who sees every child, not just academically and knowing where they're at, but seeing them as whole children of like who's struggling socially, emotionally, who might need an IEP, who is, I mean, unfortunately, it does happen. We have children who are being abused, and we are the ones who get to quite literally save their life. That's the scenario we never want to be put in, but we have such a huge responsibility as educators, and it's like a very holistic thing. We can't just think about, okay, you have to learn how to read. We have to think about their whole development. So when we do that effectively, that's where we get to see those ripple effects in the way that it can impact parents. Another thing I'm always really passionate about is parent education outside of just open house and conferences, but having opportunities for parents to come in and learn something. It can be school related, like how to understand your child's state test score, or it can be something that can better them.
That's out there.
That new math.
I haven't even seen it yet.
With the tens, hundred, the rods and flats, and the this and the new math.
I'm not here for.
We do have a family math night coming up. You can come if you want. No, but we do have this opportunity to be like drivers of societal change on a micro level, and then also on a macro level. We think about the school as like a community center. And so I've been out of college. I've been in my career now for about 11 years. And I spent half of that time as a classroom teacher. And then the other half has been as either teacher educator, so facilitating professional development, or a program director. And so the role that I'm in now, I don't have to stick to the like bureaucracy or the red tape of being within a public school district, where sometimes you know the change that needs to be made, but you have to cross every box until that change can happen. You might even have those kids in your class anymore. Now I'm in a position where I'm able to come to my group and say, hey, I see this problem. Here's some solutions. What are you guys thinking? And now we have stuff on the calendar. We have stuff in motion. We have people coming in to speak. Like there's such a wide range of ways that you can make an impact within this field of education, whether it's arts education, like more along what you're able to do, or if it's adult education. Man, there's even like senior citizen daycares where they need love and support too. So when we think about how do we make the most immediate societal change, I'm always going to say education.
No, I love that, and how it grows into community. And then, I think also being able to be in classroom and seeing those changes and seeing those moments is dope, and seeing how then it can extend to community, right? And I love watching these kids that we're working with as young people, and then they grow up and they're giving back and doing cool stuff. But then also the other side that we've also been thrown into since we've been younger is being kind of stewards of community events. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Caribbean Sea Fest and kind of the importance where it's almost like a little classroom in itself that happens, where it's able to share, and do exchanges with community and be able to share a piece, but then also provide a platform for performers and artists and different things, and how that all comes together. But talk a little bit about your involvement and what we have going on with the Caribbean Sea Fest.
Man, so Caribbean Sea Fest and the way that we've known it over the last 5 years is such a beautiful celebration of Caribbean culture, music, food, community, all the way here in the Pacific Northwest. So first, a shout out to the whole team that makes it work and all of the different islands and nations that are represented. And as you ask me this, and I think back to like, okay, how do we get here? I think back to like mom's participation in the West Indian Women's Club. And I remember going to those meetings with her, to then like the Grupo Baiano practices. And so much of it is organization, setting a time and a date to come together, whether it's to practice dance routine for presentation, to do a bomba seminar with somebody from Puerto Rico who's coming out to teach us. I remember like that organization that took place as when I was younger, even before I was born. I seen the pictures of you in your performance attire. Mom, Titi, like everyone's been making us get to it. Did mom just call you? She just called me. But the way that we've been seeing organization from a young age. And then I feel like as I grew up, I leaned towards organization. I wanted to be in groups. I wanted to be on student council. I went to already pretty small college, but then I wanted to be in a sorority. Shout out to the Reds. But the way that organization and a solid team with a clear purpose and just sitting in a meeting and planning is like might seem like such a minute interaction, or just like, yeah, that's what you do. But there's so much power there. That's where we're turning ideas. That's where we're coming up with themes. So when I think about those Monday Caribbean Sea Fest meetings that, I might drag my feet or like, oh, I'm not going to go today. But those weekly meetings that mom, Auntie Yvonne, like that people are consistently showing up for over the last 40 years. And I just look at them and I'm like, okay, you deserve to just kind of take a seat and enjoy. Like, it's time for us as the younger generation to come together. I'm just so grateful and amazed at like what they've been able to sustain over the last like 30, 40 years here in the Pacific Northwest. I also think about the opportunities that we had to kind of get out of this area and bring ideas back. So when people are like, oh, I'm going to Carnival this year, I'm like, been in Carnival since I was like 7, 8, getting trophies for being junior queen at Carnival. Like, this, I know ball. We're not just playing masks. We're not just turning up. Like, it's a real art. It's a competition. So having that experience, but having to go to Canada for it, or even Trinidad for that experience, knowing that we can do that here in Seattle is so motivating. So then like you said, we would go back to New York a lot, but having spent about 9 years on the East Coast as an adult and learning the culture on my own and seeing like Labor Day in New York and thinking about, okay, how can we bring all these different aspects of Caribbean celebrations around the world to the Pacific Northwest? And I think that we've done a pretty amazing job in doing that with Caribbean Sea Fest because of the strong connections we've been able to sustain over the years, these families who've come together, and then also the Caribbean partners that we have here, like the people at Taste of the Caribbean. It's just amazing to see how our Caribbean community has grown here in the Pacific Northwest, because if you ask anybody off the street, do you think there's Jamaicans in Seattle, Panamanians in Seattle? They're gonna say no, but we know we're here. We out here, we outside. Caribbean Sea Fest, usually the second weekend in August. You don't want to miss it because it's massive.
No, for sure. No, it's been dope. And I think it was the West Indian Women's Club. I think might have been the first one. Washington State Caribbean Association used to be a part of Hispanic Seafarer, and then ended up doing our own thing as the Caribbean Sea Fest.
Every other culture gets their summer festival,
right? Like, come on. And, it's all good.
And then the overlap, like we show up at Umoja Fest every year and they come to Caribbean Sea Fest. Like we're not in isolation. The whole point of Caribbean Sea Fest is that it's not just a Puerto Rican Day Parade. It's not just Jamaican festival. We're bringing everybody together. Yeah,
no, that's definitely a beauty of it, and having it grow over the years as well. That's been a labor of love, where as Elite Collective has grown, it's like, okay, I'm doing these other events and seeing things. I'm like, a lot of times, obviously budget is a big part of it, but I think that's been a big thing that has separated the traditional, majority minority folks in the types of events that we're doing versus some of these other events that are funded and can bring all the top of the line stuff. And it's just like, man, grassroots. We have the art though, right? We have the things. If we had the platform, or we had the mics and the stuff, it could be just as good. So that's been one of my things of just wanting, whenever possible, to try to, let me know what you got. Okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to bring a little bit extra because I know what it could be and I know what it deserves to be. And I think
it's an investment.
I think it was 2 years ago was a year that we had a big jump in our own AV gear and we're able to bring that to the festival. So I think like the production value of it has grown a
long
bunch.
a long way from a boombox at the Sewer Park Amphitheater.
Right.
Put your CD in.
A long way since then for sure. And now it's like, you know, okay, we're up there, we're competing with a lot of these other things and looking to see where it goes from there. But a lot of it, like you had mentioned, where, you know, shout outs to the elders and everyone that's been keeping it going, right? And, you know, now it's time for younger generations to take that baton, but then also bring some of the stuff that we've learned. Like, yo, we are able
I was at Miami Juve, but it was for research purposes.
There we go. Exactly.
I got some ideas for us.
Yep. No, for sure. And that's part of it too, is like to go out, but be able to bring that back and, you know, come with some fresh ideas and come with some new things, technologies, you know, being able to, you know, it used to, like you said, you know, the CD used to be 80% Black and you had a bunch of businesses that you could drop off flyers off and things would just, the word would just get around.
Shout out to the Mecca, man.
The Mecca.
I feel like a lot of this started at the Mecca.
Oh, for sure.
2030 Union. That's where we had our dance practices. We will walk there from up the hill from Madrona. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not the same, but I'm so inspired by who I see coming back to the community.
Oh, no,
community.
For sure.
Like going to communion and being like, yeah, this is ours. Or the space across the street, the Africa Town, the outdoor area.
Yep.
Like I spent some time there in the summer, like just seeing the way that we are kind of reclaiming Seattle
Art
as ours
over there.
Exactly. From the CD to the South End. Like I feel like even on Rainier in Columbia City with the Esquire and Black and Tan, Island Soul, like we have to support and preserve these spaces.
What's left
whenever we can.
For sure. And no, I was speaking though to how you could just take some flyers and just go down just a road, but now it's like we're so separated. But then having this newer generation take advantage of social media and some of these other things and mix it, right? It's a little bit of both, where people are used to traditional ways as well as reaching
Mom
out
loves
to
a flyer.
Loves a printed flyer for sure. But then being able to reach, because we also have a lot of transplants and folks that might not have connected with folks. So it's like meeting people where they're at, letting them know that we're here, how we can come together and build. But it's been a joy. So we come out there and support with the audio. We're out there doing photos. You know, Vic's been taking photos forever of the groups.
Winding up with the camera.
Yeah, with the husband. We got videos getting out there. We have the last couple of years we're doing live streaming coming out of COVID. And then now we do like a live to tape. But also so that stuff can get preserved. You know, it's like a lot of times like, oh man, I wish the camera would have been there because, you know, so-and-so was dancing that year. And, you know, obviously with our elders and stuff, like sometimes we don't know when the last, you know, Caribbean Sea Fest is going to be. So it's like, man, capture it all, support it all, come out. And it's been dope. So definitely tap in.
I'm excited for Sea Fest, excited to see what we bring this year in August, but definitely big things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then I wanted to dive into, where do you see like education heading, especially for Black and brown students, and kind of talking about where we're at and then generally, and then what you have going on specifically.
That's a heavy question, man. I have what I wish was the case, what I see, what I have seen. While, like, when we're looking at the news or keeping up with the government, society, we're defunding. There's so many threats. So much is like, oh, is my child going to stop having an IEP? Are they going to stop getting services at school? Like, what do I do? Like, people's heads are spinning. But then I go into a school, like a strong school. I went into my son's kindergarten class last week, and I walked in there with a box of pizza, donuts, and when I tell you not one kindergartner made a peep, I was like, oh, okay, we're in a good place. And as I've reflected on that moment, I've never seen a kindergarten class. It was a Friday, half day. I walked in, not a peep. I was amazed. And so I really took a moment to like reflect on that and think about, okay, how can every classroom be like this, or this calm, or this organized? And it really comes down to like teacher training. So I will scream from the mountaintops, you can build a good teacher. Like all it requires is feedback and training. and the desire to grow, like a growth mindset, obviously. But for like, I think a message I have for like principals and different school leaders is that get into your classrooms, get into every single classroom at least like twice a month, give your teachers feedback, let them know what they're doing well, give them bite-sized things to work on. And that's how we can have more like uniform unity across classrooms, because you know the strong classrooms in a school and you want all of them to be like that. So I would say the first thing is to answer your question, like classrooms within one building are not the same. Within a district, they're not the same. And that's why I think it's so important as we're making these decisions as parents on like where we want our kids, we have to be informed. Yes, it is a privilege to be able to like make that decision. And some folks have to just go with their district school for a number of reasons. But if you live in a district and you have the means to research options, in most states, I will say, most large cities, you'll have your district school, but a lot of cities are also having charter schools now, which is a free public school. And most of my teaching experience was in charters. And I feel that charter schools do have a higher emphasis on teacher development and teacher training. So if for the parents out there who are like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what my options are, I would start with, what are your district options? What's nearby you? Are there charter school options? What is their focus? Like some charter schools focus on theater. Some charter schools have an emphasis on social emotional learning. Some charter schools have really strong special education departments where they might have a specific section of the school dedicated to students on the autism spectrum. So research the charter schools around you. And then also I would say research the independent private schools. A lot of them do have scholarships. They might be within your budget. But if you're a parent who wants to make an informed decision, I would look into those 3 areas. In your district, look at your address, your school that you're zoned for your address. And maybe your mama's address, your cousin's address, if you get creative, see what your options are there, and then explore what else is available, because every school is different, every district's different. But if you can go into these buildings and see firsthand what is the vibe, I feel like in any school I've walked in, within like 30 seconds of being in the building, you can kind of see what the vibe is. If there's a bunch of kids who are sent out into the hallway, they're missing out on class time because of behavioral issues, and that's not a student issue, that's a teacher issue. Or if you go into a school and you see cultural artwork on the walls, okay, that's important to them because we know art funding was cut long ago, but they're still making that importance. Ask about after school programs. Parents work out long hours. Is the school's after school program free, or are they charging you for it? Those are important questions to really know, like, okay, is this the right school for me and my child? But yeah, it's easy to see the news and panic and think, you know what, I'm just about to homeschool my kid. I can't take that risk of, them being harmed in any sort of way, physically, mentally, whatever, emotionally. But there are some really strong schools out there, strong leaders. Talk to the people in your family. A big decision in how I made the decision for my son's school was like, okay, where are the kids in our family going? Like, where is the highest concentration of cousins? Because we're going to start there. And then once I learned more about the school, I was really happy with that choice. And I know that he's there. He has cousins there that they're not in the same class, obviously, but he feels comfort knowing like my big cutty's across the hallway. I'm good. When we look back at schools during the first schools before integration, when schools were segregated, our ancestors were making it shake with an open room and a chalkboard and 50 kids. So as long as the right people are there, that's why I'm always saying, teacher, please, we need more. As long as the right people are there, it doesn't matter, man, what it comes down to, like community.
Excellent. So there's hope.
There's hope. Ask your kid's teacher if you could sit in the classroom for about an hour, and you're going to be amazed at what happens in their little bubble, in their little world, at the things in their environment. You're going to see some little glimmer of hope that like he gave that kid a pencil. Like we are raising a compassionate generation. Right. But yeah, the as long as the children are good, we'll be good.
Excellent. So with that, what's next for you? What's next on the horizon?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier that 2025, I went from one dream job to another dream job. So at the start of this year, I was working for an ed tech company, and I was traveling around the country and delivering professional development to teachers and school leaders on how to use this resource. That was a dream job. I love to travel. I love to connect with people, and it low-key felt like a research project. Like, I got to go to big cities like Chicago, and I went to rural towns in Missouri and Alaska. Got to see the way that they're supporting the indigenous schools there. But I also went to like small, rural, all white, pro America schools. And like I said, like, schools are often the safest place. I feel like the experience that I had there just let me know, like, okay, the schools are the safe places. I might have been getting followed through that town, but when I got to the school, I felt safe, and I got to connect with people who believe that children are important and deserve to be protected. So anyways, I went from that role into a more localized role. I've been back in Washington now for 2.5 years. I wanted to really like ground myself and reestablish my roots here. And that I did. I went to a job that I didn't even know was a dream job. I'm working at Rainier Scholars, Tacoma, which is part of the larger Rainier Scholars program that's been here in Seattle for 25 years. I was in cohort 2 of that program, so I've been within this community almost since the very beginning, and they did play a major role. I've been so blessed and fortunate to be part of these different communities that really helped develop this nerd, the school lover in me. But it was never on my radar to come back to Rainier Scholars. And my mentor, who I've had since 6th grade, was like, hey, I have a position. I think you're the person for it. And I was like, you know what? I think I am too. And so I started that role in March, and it has truly been like a dream job that I didn't even know was a dream job. I felt like when I went into teaching, I definitely felt like I was like paying it forward. All that has been poured into me. But now to be back home working for an organization that put years and thousands of dollars towards my development, academic development, leadership development, to be in a position where I'm able to provide that same support to students, I feel like I went from paying it forward to paying it back. And so I just want to continue growing in my role, growing as an educational leader here in Washington. And I got my start in New Jersey and in New York, and I got to really learn about the landscape there. But now that I'm back in Washington, and specifically in Tacoma, I'm learning more about the schools there and the needs of the students and families in Tacoma. And when I make that commute from Tacoma back, over here to King County, I'm just so grateful at the way that I'm able to support and show up for our students and families. And to be able to say, I did this. I know it's hard. It probably feels extra, but let me tell you that this is the start of you being able to like follow your dreams, reach your goals, and you have so much support. For 25 years of alumni support. So I'm looking forward to continuing to grow within my realm as an educational leader, getting more established here in King County and Pierce County and in the state of Washington. And who knows what's to come down the line. I've always wanted to be a principal. I've used to want to be the Secretary of Education, but I just want to continue to grow as an educational leader so that I can widen my impact, because I have the students I serve, the teachers I serve, but if I continue to grow that, then I'll be good. I'm also looking forward to getting into some more creative projects, seeing how we can continue to grow Caribbean Sea Fest, how I can bring some of my personal passions like travel, carnival to life. I would love to like get a group going to go to different carnivals and provide people with the experiences that we've taken for granted all these years, and help others have that travel experience. And whether that's like travel groups or even like family trips, like I feel like going to Jamaica when we were younger was fun because we had so many cousins and family with us. But yeah, I just want to see how can I continue to share my gifts with this world.
I love that. Thank
you.
The future is brighter.
Yes.
I love it. So we usually end with a quick fire round of quick questions, quick answers.
Right, let's go.
What's your go-to classroom hype song?
Ooh, classroom hype song?
Something Cardi?
I'm like, when I was in the classroom, when I was in the Heights, I would Oh my gosh. Okay, so the last classroom I taught, shout out to Washington Heights, New York, man. The last classroom I taught in was in Washington Heights, New York. My class was probably like 90% Dominican. And every day we would hear around, midday, somebody drive by blasting dembow. And we would just have to take a little dance break. So I think my teacher turn-up song is El Alfa. Go dance, go dance, go. But the dembow just blasting. So that's probably
I love it.
Shout out Washington Heights, man. That was a good experience.
Good times. Favorite Caribbean dish?
Gotta hit him with it. That's a tough question, man. Oh my God. Okay, mofongo all day. Any variation of plátanos, tostones, probably mofongo with a good sauce. Shrimp or chicken. Some type of mofongo.
There we go. Most influential teacher growing up?
Mom. Outside of my mom. Man, most influential teacher growing up. Whew, I had so many. Okay, I know it's supposed to be a quick round. My first grade teacher, Miss Rutledge, she helped me be calm and happy, and I was a little nervous going to school. I'm from La Escuelita to a K-8 school. Shout out to Miss Rutledge. Mr. Turman, my second grade teacher. I thought of both of them because I see them both on Facebook. He was a real one. He showed me the importance of positive reinforcement. He hyped us up. Maybe it was bribery. He would give us red vines every day. And I remember being at the end of the day hi, I got the most red vines. Y'all should listen. But those two teachers definitely had an impact.
You guys had a different teacher every year?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I went to BF Day Elementary. Mine was Miss Gonzalez. And I don't see it too much anymore, but I had her from 2nd grade to 5th grade. So She had a mixed class of 2 to 5. And I look at it now, I'm like, that's
crazy work.
And somehow she made time to meet us all at our levels. But I remember what was dope about being in the mixed class is you could always read up and learn up and see what was going on. So literally everybody in class was always at least 1 grade up on reading and math. I remember being in 5th grade,
that peer
she
model
would get us the 6th grade books. And so I remember going to 6th grade, we literally did this book already, but that was dope. Shout out to Miss Gonzalez. She was filthy. Eolina. One word to describe your teaching style.
Authentic.
Ooh.
I don't code switch.
Come on.
I remember one time I was doing a parent teacher conference, and me and this parent, we're vibing, we're talking, we're kikiing. This principal literally came in and gave me feedback that needed to be more professional with families. I was like, okay.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson. That's a style.
It was a lady.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Johnson. Okay. Soca, dancehall, Afrobeat, or R&B?
Well, I'm glad you didn't include bachata, salsa, reggaeton in that. So out of that, you're going to get me disowned.
Yeah, a little bit.
Boy, I'm going to say dancehall.
Same.
It's all about Romy. Yeah, it's dancehall. I love soca, but sometimes I need a break.
Yeah.
I love soca. I'm not one of those soca hating Jamaicans.
4th of July, where it's okay, today we have fireworks and hot dogs and hamburgers. This is what we're gonna do.
I'm not part of that. I don't agree with that. I could do soca every day, but
no, what I mean
it's like breakfast.
What I mean is on a day you need a thing.
On a day you need a thing.
When there's no replacement for a soca.
Okay.
If you're in a soca vibe, you can't get through it.
Yes. Even soca one day out the year, and not one day is carnival.
There's a time for it, and there's no replacement for it. It's a high. Yes.
R&B is an everyday, but I can't do without dance hall.
Yeah, I think for me it just goes. And Afrobeat is popping too, but it's not the same. Personally. Respectfully. This one was an interesting one. Caribbean auntie phrase that raised us.
Well, I know it's probably supposed to be a more gentle parenting phrase, but probably bendición. And now that I'm auntie age, I'm I didn't hear bendición. I would probably say it's bendición.
There we go. I like it.
Or chancla. No word, just chancla.
Picking it up. It's been a ride for sure. It's been a fun little journey, and now we have our own little peoples that we're doing it all over again with.
I know. It's man, shout out to La Escuelita.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on that. But for my son and my nephew to go to the same early childhood center that I went to, and then to just see kind of how you were talking about when we document, we're able to spread. We started with the great things at La Escuelita, and then Mom and Grandma Carmen wrote Soy Bilingüe, and they wrote this workbook, they wrote these seminars so that they could spread this knowledge. So I think that has been an ongoing theme in our lives. But like you were saying, for our kids to be there, for them to do carnival, for them to dance Tiny Whiny, and we remember dancing it as kids, it is, I don't even have the words. Like, I'm so grateful that we got to have that experience, or that my son had Miss Sylvia. Now your son has Miss Sylvia. Like, what a blessing. And what a great school. Shout out to Miss Sylvia, all the La Escuelita teachers, the directors, Shabamati. I don't even have the words to express how grateful I am that we still have that community. And it's a testament to show how strong the school is that somebody like Miss Sylvia would want to be teaching there 30 some years later.
Isolina's teacher when Iso was a little person.
A little La Escuelita baby. Yeah. But we have, on that note, there are so many strong early childhood, dual language early childhood centers in the city of Seattle that are part of Seattle Preschool Program. And so for any parents out there who want their child to have a culturally relevant, language rich early childhood experience, I would check those out. You can look on the Seattle Preschool Program or Department of Early Learning. They have a finder where you can put your zip code in and the type of school that you're looking for, and you can find a match. I mean, we have schools that are Somali, Amharic, Tigrinya. We have so many different options within the city of Seattle, whether that is your home language or a language you want your child to learn. Yeah. Exactly. There are so many options. And so what I would love to see as the next step is that we see that same representation in elementary and middle school. And for that to happen, we need the funding. The funding comes from these levies. So y'all, please make sure that you vote in those smaller elections that you think aren't important. We did just have one, but stay involved, stay on it, because those local elections are the ones that are getting the funding for us to be able to do things that represent us. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I love it. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
like you said,
brother.
We can go in so many different directions.
My real brother.
Right?
Love you so much.
Well, we'll definitely have you back on, and vice versa. And thank you all for
thank you to the listeners.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Again, it's your boy Carlos Imani, and this is Elite Insights. See you next time. Peace.